Get my 6. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the most awesomest homesteading channel on the entire planet. It has absolutely nothing to do with homesteading whatsoever. Homesteading off the grid. So it's been almost a week since I have made a video, so I wanted to make sure to come out here and make one. It's still mid-morning here as of this recording, so this is like a pre-recorded upload thing because I'm busy, super busy now in the evenings. Football season has started. My son Daniel is playing football, tackle this fall for the first time. So he's been doing flag all these years. Now he's gone up to tackle. Practices every day, not once a week. It's more intense. And of course, his mother and I are getting involved to the degree that we can. So we're not here in the evenings. And then also, I don't know if you can tell or not, but I've been clearing my forest. Part of what I'm going to talk about today. So I just wanted to kind of touch base and give you some updates. Number one, True Hauntings Volume 5, I believe will be available on Amazon by the end of this week. Another reason I haven't been doing videos, aside from building up the TikTok, whatever you call that, page, channel, I don't know, I'm new to it. But thank you for supporting us on Sick Twisted Humor at TikTok. Got into it, everybody's like, oh, you're not going to make it on TikTok. That's for, young, attractive people. All the old people do Facebook, which we have 859 or 60,000 followers now on Facebook, on Sick Twisted Humor. Thanks if you're over there. Then 300 and some thousand here. But this is kind of like a dead in the water channel, and I realize that. There's a couple thousand of you who always watch, and I appreciate you. But anyway, so don't do Instagram. Besides, you got to get to 10,000 followers before you can be monetized and blah, blah, blah. Well, it took us 3 weeks to do that. We got to 10,000 in 3 weeks, and now we're getting 1,000 a day. I think we're at 14,000. So thanks for supporting us over there. The couple hundred of you that have, but we're blowing up Instagram. So I've been busy doing that, getting viral on yet another social media platform that I was told I couldn't make it on. Like they told me on Facebook 15 years ago, you're not some pretty girl that's 20 years old and knows how to twerk. Somehow we've got almost 1 million there. And then of course here, and this is coming around to the discussion today. And then, so football, building up Instagram, clearing the forest, and doing the final edits on True Hauntings Volume 5. It will be out by the end of the week, and I'll let you know. I'll make an announcement. Want to thank everybody who contributed to that short story collection of real-life, paranormal, supernatural, cryptid stories. Shout out to Charlie in England, who at the last minute submitted a beautiful story about the spirit of a little girl, Arabella, who was trapped in a painting, and Charlie, who was a medium, and his grandmother, this happened when Charlie was a child, I think he was 9, his grandmother, Sylvia, was also a medium. That's where he kind of got it from. They helped this girl get to the other side. That's a beautiful story. Shout out and a big thanks to Nina Petrie in West Virginia, who submitted at least half a dozen stories for the collection. Teresa Kroger Neville, big shout out. She's got a couple stories in there. Follow her, please, on Facebook, on Instagram. The name of her channels or pages, whatever on the platforms are Grain of Mustard. Teresa, if you're on here, put it in the comment section. So that's why I've been away. But I want to just put this out there for anybody who likes my life experience type talks. It's about people. Listen, people are just going to talk smack. They're going to tell you all the things they can do and how great they are. And then they're going to tell you all the reasons why you can't do what you want to do and why you suck. Because listen, this is human nature. It's so unfortunate. People want to see you do good. They just don't want to see you do better than them. That's just a hard fact. People will like you as long as they view it for whatever reason in their mind that you're just a little bit beneath them. But once the time comes where they kind of think in their mind that maybe you're getting a little bit above them to some degree, they'll hate you. I have a point to this because I've experienced this here recently. Well, the forest is part of it. And then stuff going on with my son and football and all that. So there was all these kids talking smack all summer about football, trying to intimidate my son. Oh, you're going to get creamed. You're not even going to be able to get through conditioning in tackle football. And these other kids, I'm the best. I'm the man. I'm going to go D1. I break everybody's ankles. That's like the term now for the young people. If they can juke and jive, get around the opposition, that they call that breaking ankles, because you like breaking your ankles, falling down, trying to catch them. And Daniel would come to me and he'd say, oh, so-and-so said this, so-and-so. I said, so-and-so is spending 10 hours a day playing video games. Let them say whatever they want to say. Don't you say anything. Just say, yeah, cool story, bro, whatever. You go out there and do the work. Because listen, there's one thing ultimately, aside from what's important, like family, we should all be focusing on one thing and one thing only, and that is getting better at what it is that we do. What is it that we do? Are you a football player? Are you a forester? Are you a writer? Are you a social media content creator? Are you a teacher, an educator? Are you a coach? Are you a dentist? Are you an optometrist? What we should do is focus on getting better at what we do. Period. End of story. And listening to people talk trash and try to break us down in an attempt to artificially build themselves up is not part of getting better at what we do. It's just noise. Let it go. So I tell my son all summer, while that kid's telling you and everybody else about how great they're going to be and all the things they're going to do, while also spending 10 to 12 hours a day playing video games all summer, keep your mouth shut, get out there and work out, train, do your conditioning in the mornings, do your cardio, lift your weights. Let's get out there every evening, which he and I have done all summer, including to the heat when the heat wave was here. We'd wait till the last hour a day. Let's get out here, work on pass drills, work on catching drills, work on routes. Well, let's just say there weren't 10 kids, but 5 of the kids that were talking trash about breaking ankles didn't even come out, didn't even show up. Their name's not on the roster. They're not even playing. And the one that did, that talked trash all summer, this is the first time he's probably done anything physical since last spring flag football season, and he was puking at practice while Daniel was running circles around him and everybody else. So as we're raising our son, because there's been times he's talked trash too, we've really gotten him away from that. We tell him, show, don't tell. You hear that in writing. It's about being descriptive or not. It's actually to help avoid being overly descriptive. Let people see through the telling of the story what's going on instead of being overly descriptive, which is how they teach you to write in the public school system, which is a joke, as we all know, and it's become obsolete and it continues to get worse. Last year, more Americans pulled their children out of the public school system than any year in recorded American history. It's because it's gotten insane. We're homeschooling again this year. We're very happy about that. Our son wants to start attending school again the following year when he's in high school so he can play football. We're torn right now between sending him to a very expensive elite private school where he can play football versus the public school. Now, historically, the public school, the high school of our district has been historically a good school. But there's some things going on in the public school system that we're just not happy about, and we're hesitant to send our child back. We're definitely not doing it this year, but I've been paying attention, and it looks as if there may be hope to where we will feel more comfortable sending him back to the public schools next year if certain things get set in concrete as far as eliminating a lot of the ridiculousness that's going on in the public school system. Read between those lines, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. But at any rate, for this year, it's turned out to be a good decision not to send him back because once again, our county, a very affluent county in central Virginia, Albemarle County, Virginia, right outside of Charlottesville. Charlottesville's the county seat. Once again, waited until 2 weeks before school started to announce to the folks out here in the rural areas that they don't get buses this year. So once again, there's a bus driver shortage. So they do the opposite of what should be done, and they take the busing routes away from the kids that live out in the rural areas, like 30 to 40 minutes away from the school, to make sure that the kids that live within walking distance have school buses. Yeah, why would they do that? The entire reasoning behind starting a school bus route back in the 1950s was to bus those kids that lived out on the farms into the cities so they could attend schools and be educated. And when I was in high school in the 1990s and early 90s, late 80s, I lived in town 3/4 of a mile away from my high school. I walked. Middle school and high school, I walked. There was no bus route because they used the buses to go out into the county and the country to get the farm kids and bring them in. Well, they do the opposite in our county, and it's to punish the affluent. Where we live out here, these are $1 million properties. These folks are successful. Sure, a lot of them were born into it, a lot of trust fund babies, but there's a lot of self-made, successful people out here like us who grew up with humble means, but who worked their way into this zip code. And now they're trying to penalize us for our success. They're throwing around the word privilege, putting in their communications that they appreciate the sacrifices those of us who live out here are willing to make so that children less privileged than our own can have busing. Which is the politically correct, passive-aggressive, sociopathic way of saying, you guys are rich, so screw you. You can drive your kid to school. You can afford it. We're giving the poor kids who live right across the street from the schoolhouse buses. I know it's ridiculous. So once again, we're glad, we're happy we made this choice. I tell you, we went to the open house of that middle school because he went there once. You talk about bad vibes. I got left and right. An example, okay? There was a principal at that school who was new. Our son was new. I thought, hey, this is great. I want to go meet this individual. There's a woman. I'm not going to mention her name. So I see her in the hall, so I go over. I'm standing behind her. She was talking to another parent, so I didn't want to interrupt. So I stood there and took her about a minute. She finished up with this parent. Then she turned around and got in my face and very aggressively said, do you need something? Seriously. I said, yes, I do. She goes, what? I said, I need to introduce myself to you, and I need to meet you because I hear you're the new principal and my son's a new student, and I just wanted to say hello and welcome you and wish you the best of success with your new endeavor. And she was like, oh. And then she introduced herself, and then she left. That was my only experience with her, and I thought, that was odd. Who the hell did she think I was, a salesman or something? And I wasn't wearing a suit. I was just dressed like a normal guy, I guess. But whatever, it wasn't very welcoming. She seemed very aggressive. Last month, she was arrested, charged, and I believe indicted for felony child abuse and some misdemeanor stuff. There was something to do with injury to a family member, just all this crap. So she's been removed while these legal things are pending. She's going back to court sometime after school starts. So they removed her and let the vice principal step up. And I just told my wife, I'm like, yeah, we're making the right choice to homeschool again. There's a lot of lunatics associated right now with the public school systems, a lot of lunacy associated with it. So we're putting it off until maybe next year, some things might be solidified in concrete, disallowing this lunacy. And then we might allow him to go to the public school. If not, we'll pay $26,000 a year for him to go to that private school. They've got an excellent football program. So anyway, yeah, just giving you updates where we are, what we're doing. Now, as far as this forest thing goes, this is going to be the second forest on our property we've created. The first one we planted, and this is getting back to people telling you what you can and can't do. Everybody trying to cut their heads off to make themselves look taller, and how you just got to not listen to them. So you'll remember, if you've been a long time follower of this channel, my wife and son and I, 7 years ago, literally planted a forest on the front of our property. We've got 6 acres. It was all a hayfield. We planted approximately like 400 trees, 200 or 300 trees, about 1,000 trees in the front part. So we fell on hard times because at the time, Facebook, we were doing really well on Facebook. They decided to eliminate some of our pages, and we fell from making a small fortune to actually considering selling out here and going back to the Philippines because we weren't going to be able to stay here. So I had to have a real job, quote unquote real job, old economy type job where you actually have to go somewhere, punch a time clock, commute to work and back, piss away money on lunch. I think it costs like $78 every day. If you work outside of your house, it costs like $78 a day just to go to work. That's gas, wear and tear in your car, food expenses, all this. So anyway, we had this forest and we were fighting the deer. I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about here. And you see the brush piles behind me as I'm going through. I'm doing this with 2 tools and 2 tools only. I'm using my Natiti 6-inch mini chainsaw. And I'm an affiliate dealer of this. I'll try to remember to put the links to purchase these in the description box. And then my CC electric pruner. This thing is a beast. Turn it on. I did a demo video on this. Hold this for 3 seconds and then you double click it twice real quick. And now it's ready. Make sure not to get your fingers in there. And then to turn it off, close that, turn it off. That way it's safer because it's closed. Just going through, clearing this stuff out. So you see these brush piles, and then there's a trail I made a couple of years ago. Well, I got several trails through here now. But with the original forest, we planted all these little trees, and then you see this is a plum tree right here, and we've got this metal tree guard around it. We had to put tree guards around these things to keep the deer, the bucks predominantly during the rut season, from scraping them with their horns and tearing them up and killing them because we lost a bunch of trees the first time around because we didn't do that. So I was delivering mail for the post office in Charlottesville, right? And I was in this beautiful neighborhood, this very upscale, well-to-do neighborhood. There's a lot of them in Charlottesville. It's an affluent city. And there's this woman out to whom I actually was delivering some, I think it was fertilizer, gardening stuff for trees, and she's out there working on her trees. She was a little bit older than me. She was in her mid-50s. And I complimented her on her trees. She had a beautiful yard. It was like 1/4 of an acre because the lots were small, the houses were beautiful. But the yards, they were small. They weren't like ours, 6-acre yard, but they were very well manicured, well kept, just gorgeous. These people loved their places. They took good care of them. So I'm complimenting her on her trees and giving her some advice. And we're talking just for a few minutes about this kind of stuff. And I told her about what we're doing. I said, I love trees. My wife and I just planted an orchard, a fruit orchard. Then we planted 200 trees here and 400 trees there. And she's looking at me. She's like, what? I'm like, yeah, it's out in free. Well, I don't want to say where, but we got 6 acres. And she's like, she starts laughing. She goes, the deer are going to destroy those. You can't plant a forest. You'd have to put a tree guard around every one of those trees, and you can't do that. I said, well, actually you can, and actually we have. She's like, what? I said, yeah, and then so it's like she didn't want to hear it anymore because I just blew her belief system to crap. So I was out there like the next week delivering same stuff. She's out in the yard and I was like, hey, how are you? And she wouldn't even look at me, wouldn't even talk to me. I said, you remember me? She goes, oh yeah, I remember you, the man who fancies himself a planter of forests. Never even looked up at me, never even made eye contact. She was pissed because I actually planted a forest. And because I actually put tree guards around the baby trees to protect them, and now they're 20, 25 feet tall. Okay? Similarly, this back meadow, this is 2.5 acres back here. It will take me until the end of this year, more than likely, because as busy as I am, I get out here and I'll probably do this for 30 minutes or an hour a day. Like this morning, I prioritized my workout. I've already done that. I got up, hardcore circuit training today. Yesterday was a 12-mile hilly ride, sprint up the hills. It was called hill jamming workout. I do all that. So by the time, and then with the social media, 3 platforms now, editing of the books, football with my son, all I got left is 30 minutes to an hour. But I do it, so it's going to take me a little longer. But it brings to mind another, I'll just call them a loser because it's what they are. Another loser, somebody lives over that way, a few years back, asked me, why aren't you mowing that back there? Because it was all hayfield, and he saw that we were mowing parts of it, planting trees, but we were letting this go. I said, well, we're going to let that reforest. Well, he laughed at me. He laughed. He says, you can't reforest a field. I said, well, why not? He says, well, all you'll get is a scraggly meadow with all these scraggly bushes, a bunch of cedars and briars, and that's it. You won't get any real trees, and it's just not possible. Well, now I'm doing that. So this is forest number 2. The first forest on our property was the one they said couldn't be planted that we did. The second one is the one they said couldn't be reforested that we have. And now we're going through and clearing it out. We're going to make it just to where you can walk through here like you go through the woods. And every 3 or 4 years, what we're doing is we're keeping the winners and we're cutting away the losers, the small stuff. And a few years from now, we'll go through and we'll thin it out again. And it will be a majestic forest, just as the one we planted in the front. So what I want to say is I'm going to rephrase what those people told me. It should be said thus: lazy people cannot plant a forest. Lazy people cannot put wires around all those trees to protect them from the deer. And likewise, lazy people can't allow a field to reforest, go from field to meadow, then thin it out into a forest. Listen, just because you're lazy doesn't mean everyone else is. Just because you have no goals doesn't mean that no one else does. Just because you're not willing to go out there and focus on getting better at what it is you do, even if you're a guy like me and you do 8 different things, you got 8 different things going on, turn off the noise. Listen, I read recently, and this was stated by a woman, a female German historian. Can't remember her name, Agatha somebody. She was talking about the lies we're fed by the media, by the politicians, and this was 80 years ago, mid-1900s. She said, they don't tell us the lies so that we'll believe the lies. They feed us all these lies so we'll argue over the lies and never stop for a second to look at the truth. We live in a world society where the powers that be simply attempt to keep us distracted so that we don't look at what is. They don't want us to look at that. Where do you think they live their lives? How do you think they make their moolah? By focusing on what is, and by distracting the sheep, which is 97% of the world's population, with what isn't. They'll toss a little lie out there and get you to fight over that and fight over that and fight over that, to either defend the lie if you want it to be true, even though you know it's not. So that would make you a double speaker, going back to George Orwell's 1984. That's when you say things that you know are not true, but you act as if they are. They put a lot of that stuff out there. And so you got the folks, the examples I could use of this, but I won't, because I have friends that watch my channel. And I don't want to bash my friends. I love people enough to let them be who they are. And I don't judge. But just some things that have been said lately because of some stuff that's going on lately. It's insane. Listen, it's noise. And as we tell our son and as we live our lives, my nose right now is not in an iPad listening to all the racist things J.D. Vance has said about his wife, or the hoopla about the Last Supper opening ceremony thing at the Olympics. That stuff is just, if that's what you're focusing on, no wonder you're not where you want to be in life. No wonder you're not where you want to be in life. Are you struggling financially? Maybe you got some bills you can't pay, or maybe your car's acting up and you can't quite get it fixed. How much time do you spend every day on social media or on legacy media reading about the noise they're putting out there, or watching the things they're putting out there to distract you with, so you're not focusing on what's important, so that you wouldn't have financial problems, so that when your car acts up, you can just take it in and get it fixed, even if you got to leave it for a few days and get a loaner from the dealership. Big deal. You can do those things because you're prepared, because you're focusing on what is and what's important to you in regard to the things you do, versus all that noise, all the people, all the kids talking about they're going to break your ankles on a football field, and they don't even show up because they can't get off the video game station long enough to go outside. The people telling you you can't plant a forest on 6 acres. Why? Because they've only got 1/4 of an acre, and 3 trees is hard enough for them to care for. Okay? Or you can't regrow a meadow because they're too lazy to go outside and do any sort of yard work, so they want to project that onto you and hope you don't, because if they see you out there doing it, it reminds them of how lazy they are. Listen, the world is full of wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people out there. Sometimes you just got to spend a lot of time swimming upstream before you find them. You've heard it said, I'm sure, that you find out who your friends are during tough times, during bad times. There's truth in that. But let me tell you, you'll also find out who your friends are during good times. When everything's going great for you, when you're achieving success in life, you'll find out who your friends are then too. If you've got people in your circle who are not happy when you succeed, they shouldn't be in your circle. The only people who belong in your circle, who are the people who will cheer for you the loudest and who will congratulate you the most when you succeed. It's not the a-holes and the losers and the deadbeats who tell you, oh, you can't do that because of this. Oh, you can't. They're projecting their loserness onto you. Get away from them. Like the trees. I said it. We're sticking with the winners, cutting out the losers. Do the same thing with the people in your life. Stick with the people who support you and who also go out and focus on what's important, their family, and what is reality, and simply getting better at doing what they do. The people that focus on the noise and the negativity, let them go. Run like hell to get away from them. I'm going to wrap it up because I got to get in here to cutting this forest. We've got a beautiful overcast day, and I want to get to it before the sun comes out and starts beating down on me. There's a story in True Hauntings Volume 5, which again will be published by the end of the week, thanks to all the contributors. It was submitted by someone who I think I know who the person was. They submitted it anonymously. They admit to being one of my former trolls / stalkers, but they shared some information with me that really opened my eyes to the next level of sociopathy. So we all know about empaths, right? I'm an empath. Many of you, Nina Petrie's an empath. She wrote a beautiful story about what it's like to be an empath. You'll get to read it when you read True Hauntings Volume 5. We actually absorb people's emotions. And that's why we do like to spend a lot of time together, or alone, cutting down forests, or thinning out forests, planting trees, all this stuff, training, distance running, reading, writing, because we're around other people and it can become exhausting. Now, it's a beautiful thing when we're around other people who are positive, energetic, motivated, because we feed off of each other and we lift each other up. But if we get around pessimists, negative Nellies, negative Neds, it's draining. Now, those people will feel better when they've been in our presence because they get a positive charge from us. But you could spend 5 minutes with somebody like the loser that said you can't reforest a meadow. Spend 5 minutes with a pessimist like that, and you'll feel bad for the next 5 days if you're an empath, right? And this has actually been proven scientifically now, and I made a video about that a couple months ago. Well, I received a letter from one of my former stalkers who told me, I don't know if it's a man or a woman because he never used pronouns, but this person said they do believe in empathy. They know it's real because they are what they called an antipath, which is the opposite of an empath. And they described it thus. They know they're hateful, they're bitter, they're miserable, They're jealous. All these negative emotions they just have. They just have. They grew up privileged, never had to really do much for themselves. Always had things taken care of for them by people in their circle who had means. And they despise people like me, people like most of you watching, who come from humble beginnings but have, again, earned their way into success, more affluent zip codes. And so what this antipath does is this person, I'm just going to say he, let's say it's a guy, has spent their life seeking out empaths and intentionally draining them. They admit to being a sociopath. They know they're a sociopath. They admit to getting into the lives of positive people, buttering them up, and then tearing them down emotionally, and using their inherent negative energy to suck the positive energy out of people because they get a kick out of it. It's almost like erotica to them. That's what makes them tick. And they told me in this letter that they are legion, in essence. There's people like them everywhere. And have you ever been around somebody like that? And it's like, God, every time I get around this guy or every time I get around this woman, they just bring me down. And it's almost like they know they're doing it and they enjoy doing it. It's because they do. I've questioned that myself in the past, but I thought, nah, nobody could be like that. This person that sent this letter that you will be able to read in True Hauntings Volume 5 by the end of this week, it'll be available on Amazon and print and Kindle, admits to being one of those people. So that's why I'm telling you, run like hell if you get around these people, pessimists, negative Neds, negative Nellies, always got something negative to say, always telling you why you can't do something. Hey, listen to this. I was reminded this summer in a brief instant of every single reason why I coach. I've been coaching for 25 years. I've volunteered to coach on the tackle team this fall. I hope they accept it. They said, we'll see if we can fit you in. We might need you. Hang tight. I hope they bring me on. Because listen, I don't know the most about football. I never played football. I ran cross country and I did track. I've coached football for many years. Coached basketball. Never played basketball. What I bring to the table is I motivate people. I get that kid that thinks he or she can't, and I convince them that he or she can. And I'll take the worst kid on the team, and by the end of the season, I'll have them just as good as anybody else, if not the best, okay? I pride myself on that. And I was reminded of why I do it this summer when my family and I went to a cookout. We were invited, several other families there. We knew some we didn't. There was a man there, a couple years older than me. He was one of these curmudgeon-y, kind of he was a likable guy. He seemed okay, but he was just one of these sarcastic, he's sarcastic. Witty, yes. Dry humor, yes. A lot of sarcasm. But he kind of went overboard with it at one point. So my son comes over and we're talking, and the guy's asking, like, do you play any sports or whatever? And my son says, yeah, I play football. And the guy says, what position? And Daniel says, quarterback. And the guy goes, you're too small to be a quarterback. You'll never make it. 50-something-year-old man said this to a 13-year-old kid. This man has never seen my son play. He was obese, so he clearly was not athletic. And I didn't let it get to me. I said, oh, yeah, he is. Look at him. He's a big kid. I said, stand up, buddy. And so we stood. My son's as tall as me now. Well, he's 5'7". I'm 5'9". He weighs 133 pounds. He's in 8th grade. When I graduated high school, I weighed 132 pounds. Now, I was a miler. I was running 40, 50 miles a week. So I was lean and I was mean, didn't have any fat. But still, my kid in 8th grade, at the end of 7th grade, is already as big as I was when I graduated high school. So, and so anyway, Daniel went off. And I said to him later, I said, don't listen to that guy who told you you're not big enough to be quarterback. And he just rolled his eyes. He's good at not listening to this stuff because of how we're raising him. He says, Dad, he's fat. Why would I listen to him about anything about sports? He's 13, and that's what 13-year-old kids say. They're still at that age where they're just honest. So it didn't bother him. Fortunately, it didn't bother him. But in that moment, when that 55-year-old adult told a 13-year-old kid he couldn't do something and told him why he couldn't do it, In that moment, I was reminded of every reason why I coach. Folks, the older I get, the more I understand why Bigfoot Sasquatch likes to be left the hell alone and avoids people. So I hope you got something out of this. Checking in, getting ready to clear some forest. Stay hydrated out there. Watch the heat. Copperheads. I'm wearing my boots up to my knees. One of our good friends' girlfriends got bit by a copperhead 4 days ago. She spent 2 nights in a hospital. Serious business. And she was just walking down our friend's driveway. She stepped off the edge of the driveway for just a couple inches off the driveway. There was a copperhead there that they just didn't see. Maybe the grass might have been a little bit tall. Be careful out there, folks. All right. Oh, thanks for supporting us at Sick Twisted Humor on Facebook. Thanks for supporting us at Sick Twisted Humor now on Instagram. Again, something else I was told I couldn't do. Too old and ugly and a little bit creepy. 10,000 followers in 3 weeks, brah. Because what I do is I create social media content, and I'm good at it. And what I focus on is getting better at it. Not listening to the negative Nellies telling me all the things I can't do because they were always too scared to try. I'll close by quoting a guy that I have a lot of respect for in regard to his craft. George Clooney. He's an actor. He was able to do something few people in his line of business do. He started out on television and became a big movie star, blockbusting movie star. Historically, if you start out on TV, you're considered a B actor or a support actor at best if you get a role in a movie. Not George Clooney. He started out on ER, which was created by Michael Crichton, one of my favorite writers. Michael Crichton has a medical degree, never practiced medicine because he was passionate about writing. Gave us ER, the TV show, Jurassic Park. I've read every book he's written, so I know them all. But George Clooney said this recently. He said, one of the things he's learned about life is that you owe it to yourself to absolutely go out there and try to succeed at what it is you want to do. He said, too many people are so scared that they will fail that they don't even make an effort. So you'll have people my age, 50 years old plus, 55, 60, talking about, well, I wanted to do this in life, but this happened, so I knew there was not even any need to try because of that and this, or, my ex-wife took everything. He says, what will happen if you do not go out there and make an effort to succeed and do that which you want to do when you're a 65-year-old person? You are going to be bitter, jaded, angry, and hateful because you're going to be filled with regret. So go out there and do what you want to do. Don't listen to the naysayers who tell you you're too small to be a quarterback, who tell you you can't grow a forest, who tell you you can't go from acting on a TV show to becoming an A-lister movie star. Get rid of those people. Run like hell from them. Some of them do it intentionally to bring you down to their level because they feel like the ultimate loser because they were too scared to ever attempt to succeed in life. And now they're in their final chapter and they haven't even begun to write their own story. It's sad. Don't end up like them. See you for more next time from the most amazing homesteading channel on the entire planet that has nothing to do with homesteading whatsoever. Homesteading off the grid.